Hello, I'm Donna Lowry, host of Lawmakers on Georgia Public Broadcasting. You are watching the Forum for Sandy Springs City Council District 5, organized by Rough Draft Atlanta. I'm joined by Sarah Callis, a politics reporter at Georgia Public Broadcasting, and Bob Pepelis, who reports on Sandy Springs for Rough Draft. This is not a debate, but an opportunity for the candidates to introduce themselves to the District 5 voters and share where they stand on the issues. We'll get started with each candidate taking 30 seconds to introduce themselves. You will see the timer on your screen, letting you know just how much time you have remaining. And Kristen Dado Rodriguez, please introduce yourself. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. My husband and I have been residents here in Sandy Springs for roughly 18 years. We have two daughters. We're raising a middle schooler who attends Ridgeview, who used to be at High Point, and we also have a toddler who will soon be a High Point home. I have been an education advocate in our Sandy Springs public schools for 8 years, and I am also involved with Sandy Springs Education Force as a board member. I have also been on our HOA board for 15 years. And there I've learned to be an incredibly good advocate for our neighbors.
Thank you very much. Mary Ford, it is your turn.
Thank you, Donna. Hi, I'm Mary Ford. I grew up in the area and have lived in District 5 for over 20 years. I've served on the High Point Civic Association board for 10 years and am now in my 4th year as president. My civic engagement includes board level positions with nonprofits such as Atlanta Track Club. I'm a graduate of Leadership Perimeter and Leadership Atlanta. Professionally, I have 2 decades of executive leadership roles in fast-growing technology companies. And my husband and I love spending time outdoors, especially in Sandy Springs parks.
All right, thank you very much. Colin Hubbard, it is your turn.
Hey, my name is Colin Hubbard. I moved back here to Sandy Springs about 10 years ago, and immediately my wife and I got rooted back in the community that I grew up in. I'm a product of High Point, Ridgeview, and Riverwood. I've got 3 small kids at High Point who are tracked to go to Ridgeview and Riverwood as well. Whether it's NYO or Hammond Hill Swimming Pool or High Point PTO or the School Governance Council, we have implanted ourselves in this community. I'm a product of Leadership Sandy Springs, the class of 2017. I've sat on,
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We'll now go to our journalist panel who will ask 2 questions. Each one of you will answer those 2 questions. Candidates have 60 seconds to respond to each question, and the timer will let you know how much time you have remaining. Sarah, you get the first question.
Thank you, Donna. The median home sale price in Sandy Springs is over $670,000, according to the real estate website Redfin. Do you support efforts for more affordable housing in Sandy Springs? And if so, what are your ideas to achieve it?
Kristen, you get the first response.
Thank you. I do support creating districts within our city that have more varied levels of housing prices. I think that to make sure that our schools are full of students and families are able to create roots here, we need to make it easier for families to come into Sandy Springs. We did lose a school this year because of falling attendance within our schools. Some of the ideas that I have for making this possible are creating tax allocation districts where there's a public and private partnership to create housing that's more affordable for families, as well as prioritizing creating partnerships with a lot of developers to make sure that we're choosing the right things for our city.
All right, thank you very much. Colin, please respond to the question.
Sure. Look, affordable housing is a national issue that every sophisticated city is grappling with. And the issue probably deserves more than 60 seconds. But look, there's no silver bullet. Yes, the city should get involved in promoting projects and clearly stating our needs as a city. We've got to stretch beyond focus groups and forces and begin to craft a pragmatic environment, not only to encourage new housing, but develop and encourage a wide array of housing options, including multifamily, single family for sale, single family build for rent, and options that we haven't thought of before. Look, the only way affordable housing actually works is if there's a moonshot, and the moonshot would be that the city has to become financially involved in a real estate project in order to drive down the basis and create rents that are attainable to our teachers, first responders, public works people, et cetera.
Thank you very much. Mary, it's your turn.
Thank you. So housing, especially for our workforce in Sandy Springs, is something that I've heard about from many constituents. I'll share two thoughts. The first is that in the 2023 Development Code update, or zoning plan, there were some adjustments that were made to create some additional options for new types of housing, such as the manor court style. So to create some more options that could be more accessible. The other thing that is happening is that in this year's fiscal budget, the city allocated funding for a housing study. And I would recommend that that housing study be initiated with the priorities and the vision of the council and mayor that will be in place in January. I would expect that that study is going to give us insight, or we should demand that it does, into how other communities like Sandy Springs across the country have found solutions to this very important challenge. Once we understand what are those things that can be done, we could then vet those against the things that are important to our city. And I see my time is up, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Bob, your first question, please.
Okay. The T-Splosh project to widen Hammond Road between Georgia 400 and Roswell Road is going to begin next spring. What would you suggest to stop the bottleneck from creating a potential traffic nightmare when the traffic's going to be restricted on this east-west artery?
Mary, you get the first response.
Thank you. So I know neighbors in that area are both looking forward to having that traffic situation resolved, but also are a little bit anxious about what will happen as the transformation occurs. So I recommend a few things. One, that there is strong communication with the neighbors who live in the surrounding area so that they understand how their daily traffic patterns may be adjusted or how they need to adjust to accommodate. And then having really strong signage for people who are entering either end of that section of the road so that they understand the best way for their navigation to happen. I'll also share that the residents that I've talked to in that part of our district are particularly concerned about how they will be able to make left-hand turns out of the streets on the south side of Hammond. So I understand that that feedback is also getting back to the city.
All right, thank you very much. Colin, please respond to the question.
Sure. Well, I mean, ultimately, that's what the expansion is supposed to do, is to relieve that bottleneck. Now, during construction, just like this whole area, unfortunately, has gotten pretty used to traffic pattern difficulties with 400 and 285. Look, to Mary's point, we're going to have to communicate intentionally and persistently to that neighborhood and to the neighborhoods affected by that construction so people can make plans accordingly. Now, unfortunately, when that work begins, everybody on the south side of Hammond in that neighborhood is going to funnel out back onto the lower part of the neighborhood towards 285. Now, look, there's just, unless there's something, I don't know, there's just no way around it. So unfortunately, it's going to take people having a lot more patience and a lot more planning, but it's not going to be pleasant for the foreseeable future. I can tell you that.
Thank you. Kristen, it's your turn.
Absolutely. I think communication, like my friends have said, is paramount. It's creating routes ahead of time, letting neighbors know the multiple different routes we have so that we don't have everyone using the same exit routes throughout the neighborhoods. Strong signage is going to be important for people who don't live in that area, who are moving through the area. Again, with multiple different detour options so that we're not always using the same neighborhood roads as detours. Also, I think we do need to preach patience as well. This is going to be a short-term headache for a longer-term solution. And the residents have been looking forward to this change to make it easier to drive in their everyday lives. So consistently reminding them of what the point of the project is and what a short-term headache means for the long-term solution.
All right, thank you very much. We now go back to Sarah Callis to ask her second question.
Sandy Springs city policy allows for police officers to use their discretion to decide when to conduct a high-speed chase. Do you support more restrictions on the use of pit maneuvers and high-speed chases in the city?
And Mary, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I, like many other candidates, have been through the Sandy Springs Citizens Police Academy and am big fans of the leadership that Chief DeSimone and also Chief Sanders have provided to our city. And given that we have entrusted the public safety to these individuals, I recommend that we continue to let them lead as they have been and make the decisions that are going to be best for promoting public safety, while also not unnecessarily putting either the officers or the community at risk.
All right, Kristen, please respond to the question.
Absolutely. I'd like to start by saying I think that the education and the training that our officers get is top notch. I think that we're creating instincts in our officers with training that help them make good decisions. That being said, I think pit maneuvers should be the absolute last resort of stopping a high-speed chase because of the high incidence of potential injury that goes along with that, as well as unintentionally potentially including other cars in the fray of what's happening. So it should be something that's trained and something that's used as a last resort.
Thank you. Colin, it's your turn.
Yeah, because Sandy Springs is so fiscally disciplined, we've been able to make our police department some of the highest paid officers in the state. And because of that, we get seasoned veterans that have worked other places to sort of understand how to become a police officer. And when they come to us, they know what they're doing. Again, our leadership is top notch. We have not wasted any time creating a top notch police force, and our citizens realize the benefit and the protection that they give us. And we should let those leaders lead their department. Again, look, I don't think that maneuver buys you a lot at the end of the day, especially with as much technology as Sandy Springs and the city of Atlanta and Brookhaven and Dunwoody have incorporated into our systems, our joint systems. But again, let the leaders that we have entrusted with that leadership to lead, and they'll make the decision that is appropriate.
All right, thank you. Bob, you get the final question.
Okay. Sandy Springs and the perimeter CIDs are building paths to make the city more pedestrian friendly. But in places like crossing Peachtree Dunwoody from the medical station and back to the local hospitals can be a nightmare even with crosswalk signals. What would you suggest to make these streets safer?
Colin, please respond to the question.
Sure, I appreciate it. So, look, I think Sandy Springs has a long way to go in making some simple infrastructure changes like crosswalks and sidewalks more accessible, safer, etc. I don't think we've done a great job of that, especially down in our district in District 5. That said, look, that's gonna take a lot of different departments weighing in on a lot of different options. I think that eventual completion of the widening of Hammond will alleviate some of that pressure around the hospital. But then, there's got to be some out of the box thinking on ways to get people from the MARTA station to the hospital, whether that's underground, which would probably be the most difficult, or, some sort of sky bridge, if you will, to get across. Now, that's not easy. That's not cheap. But we've got to think about all options on the table in order to make our citizens safe, especially down in District 5, where I think we've done a poor job of managing the simple infrastructure that our citizens deserve.
Thank you. Kristen, your turn.
Yes. When I was in labor with one of my kids, my mom actually used that crosswalk from MARTA to be able to get to the hospital to me from the airport. And I've sat there and watched the timing, and I think simple things like timing, the amount of time that people get to go across the crosswalk should be investigated as a short-term solution. A long-term solution should be partnerships with our transportation Commission to do things like Colin was talking about, like a sky bridge, and talking to local businesses about the things that their employees are actually seeing every day. Because I think time of day is a huge thing as people are walking across to know how much traffic we get. So timing with time of day, as well as creating partnerships to be able to do community blessed improvements would be the answer.
All right, thank you. Mary?
Thank you. So I would recommend that we put in place measures that are already being used in other places, especially throughout District 5. And I believe these are called the Hawkeye type sidewalks. And so these provide much more additional lighting so that it's really obvious that someone is needing to make the crossing. Those are lights that are overhead and on the side. And in other cities I've been in, I've also seen that there is lighting like literally in the street. So it's very obvious that someone is making that pedestrian crossing and that cars need to be cautious before they proceed.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. Each candidate will now have 60 seconds for a closing statement. And Kristen, please give your closing statement first.
Absolutely. In the time that I've been in Sandy Springs, I've become a proven advocate and leader in our community. I've had the experience of talking to my neighbors and eye to eye when I make a decision on the HOA board that they may not agree with. And almost every single time we walk away still as neighbors and friends, even if we don't agree. So I think consensus and being able to communicate is incredibly important in this role. And I'm running because I see the impact of good advocacy and transparency in our community. I prioritize good stewardship of resources like tax dollars. My personal priorities are growing our relationships with the school board and the county, incubating small businesses, and increasing our infrastructure to make sure that we're protecting our homes. I ask you for your vote because I think the board needs new perspectives, especially family perspectives and people in our school board.
Thank you very much. Mary, you may now give your closing statement.
In my years as president of the High Point Civic Association, neighbors have seen my results-oriented leadership style firsthand. I've proven that I can bring people together. I listen, I solve problems, I'm responsive, and a strong communicator. Since announcing my campaign, the most rewarding part has been going door to door, hearing from neighbors who value our public safety, strong neighborhoods, and well-run city, and also listening to concerns in areas where we can improve. These insights are key to representing the voice of District 5 residents. I'm ready to hit the ground running. I'm a graduate of the Sandy Springs Citizens Leadership Academy. I have relationships across the city and regularly attend city council meetings to understand the issues. I'm proud to have the endorsement of our outgoing councilman, Tibby DiGiulio. I'd be honored to earn your trust and your vote, and I'm ready to serve as your District 5 council representative. And maryford.com for more information about me.
Thank you very much. Colin, we conclude with you.
Oh, thanks. So my motivation is the culmination of a couple different things. For almost a decade, I've felt we've been underserved and lacked the representation and communication we as a district deserved. I believe I have the skill set required for the next 4 years. I've built a career on managing big personalities and big budget and big projects and budgets of all sizes, worked with stakeholders to create a vision and executed on that vision. But the galvanizing moment for me was the eventual closing of Spalding Elementary School. I fought, just like so many other engaged parents did, to keep that school open. And having grown up in Sandy Springs and a father of 3 at High Point, I'm acutely aware of the community that is created in a school, especially in elementary school. And through that entire process, I was so impressed with the engagement of the entire community because it was an entire community issue. And at that moment, I knew I wanted to do more. This is the maturation of my love for Sandy Springs, my campaign for District 5.
All right, thank you very much. That's all the time we have. I want to thank the candidates and the panel for participating and Rough Draft Atlanta for organizing the forum. Early voting begins Tuesday, October 14th. Election day is November 4th. I'm Donna Lowry. Thanks for tuning in.